Well, as we recently discussed, the New Zealand Herald is arguing that the coalition government is backtracking on its desire to keep sports based on biology and not ideology. And it was a policy of New Zealand First that it would be based on biology. Today we speak to the Acting Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Winston Peters. Winston Peters, thank you very much for your time. Were you blindsided by this story in the New Zealand Herald today?
Well, we weren't so much blindsided as disgusted by it, because here comes an article in today's Herald where they didn't even have the journalistic integrity to call me or my colleagues to find out what the true story is. Now, this sort of got you type dirt is not going to be allowed to continue in this country. In terms of journalism, is going to be called out for what it is, and I'm calling it out right now as being a disgraceful piece of journalism, misnomer and deceit.
Okay, now I actually watched your press conference with the media yesterday when you were calling for a decent fourth estate when they were asking for funding, which was rather amusing. So, I mean, they would argue that they have gone to the coalition representative, which is Chris Bishop, the Minister of Sport, and yet he seemed to misrepresent the current guidelines, saying that there's exceptions for safety when there's not.
No, he didn't misrep the thing. You've got to look at carefully what he said. He said that this is we're early into the piece, and we have a watching brief as we put this in place. Right. And that's where we are. We're just getting this thing underway, but to say that he was saying one thing and we were saying something else is so wrong, because if that even had any merit, where was the something else we were saying when they didn't even bother to interview us? You follow my point?
Yeah. So what would you say is the ultimate goal here? I mean, I think groups have been just simply saying, look, in the interest of safety and fairness, the clear-cut way is to base it on biology, which I think is what your election promise was before the election. Is that still your goal?
That is precisely our goal. That's why we wrote it into the coalition agreement. What we want is fairness and safety, and you cannot have fairness and safety if someone's got a biological advantage over you. That is artificial advantage, because they shouldn't be on the same sports ground with you. Now, there are many engagements where it wouldn't matter. For example, if you were playing chess or some other thing else, it wouldn't matter about this. No. But if it was a knitting competition, you'd probably be doing very badly because if you're a male. But my point is, it's the question of fairness, and it's as clear as daylight. And you recall the old Hubbard case, when it was clear when she went onto that podium to get the prize, and how people were annoyed at the unfairness of it all, and then it stopped happening. But you got people out there trying to think that doesn't matter what the mass majority of people think. They want their own certain unfair way.
I mean, when I listened to Chris Bishop, he was sort of arguing, look, we haven't really seen any evidence of this being an issue in sports. How would you respond to that?
Well, I don't know what he meant by that, because we've had all sorts of examples, including the champion swimmer that was setting all sorts of incredible records. Her name was Liz Thomas. And Leah Thomas, was banned. Was Leah Thomas rather. It was banned because everybody could say it was immensely unfair. So we have seen examples. He might be talking about a localized area, at a local sports ground, where that hasn't happened. But I'm talking about the big picture across the nation.
Okay, one of our friends is Raylene Castle, who's the head of sports, and I was actually talking to Ro Edge from Save Women's Australasia, Women's Sports Australasia, and she felt that the pressure was coming from New Zealand sports onto the government and not necessarily from the government itself. Would you agree with that? Do you think it's the sporting bodies that need to get this sorted?
It's the sporting bodies that need to get this sorted. And if you're talking about rugby, they've got bigger problems than this, I can tell you. They've got massive problems in terms of onward entertainment and marketing going forward. So they should get their heads screwed on straight here and stop wasting people's time on the possibility of unfairness happening on a sports ground.
Okay. Have you had any contact with the media to push back to, because to be honest, I woke up this morning to the news that you were going to be on a radio show. And so I waited to hear what your response was, and I never heard you. What happened there?
No, well, look, because of the number of attacks on my phone, we had a hiccup this morning.
Right.
And you've got no idea what I've had to put up with. And the longest columns I've got in my sort of diary record of personalities is nutter. It's as long as it's long. So we had a hiccup, but it happens now and again. Right. And I'm sorry, but that's where it is.
And this is the problem when you're the acting Prime Minister. I mean, I think just to reassure you, the polling that we've done shows that, look, only 13% think that there's some fairness and we don't have to worry about safety when it comes to mixing dudes in a girls' sporting team. There seems to be lots of evidence. So it seems like the public is on your side. Have you felt that from your campaign?
Yeah, well, it's not biased, not anti anybody. We don't mind what people do, but it's just logic and common sense that safety and fairness be paramount.
Mm. Okay, am I able to just ask you a quick question, hopefully not catch you off guard, just around the issue of the whole puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones for children? There is going to be a review. The CAS report came from the UK. Are you looking for a review there? Are you keen to see some progress on that?
Again, we're very keen to see progress, because young people, unable to make up their mind, are being destroyed for life by what I might call loose liberal views of what their entitlement is to make decisions at an early time when their minds are not framed. Go and ask any criminal lawyer, and the first thing they say when somebody's on a certain age is that this person's not fully mature yet. But here we got people prepared to condone this when a child could make a decision, no chance to turn that decision backwards if they made the mistake, and they'll be living the life of that mistake because adults didn't have enough courage or common sense to ask them to wait until they could make the decision at an age of maturity. It's that simple.
Okay, and sorry, just one other question, just the relationship sexuality education in schools, you're wanting it reviewed, quite rightly, lots of support for that, and yet it still seems to be being pushed by the Ministry of Education, and Inside Out is still being funded to do it. What's the progress on that?
Well, we're getting back to education, and we're going to see the end of indoctrination in this sort of loose delivery of subjects that the child has never asked for in the first place, nor were the parents ever consulted. And you've got a type of despotism going on from the certain people in the bureaucracy who want to have no regard to the public's right and the parents' right to know. You know, there's a phrase called in loco parentis. When that child's at school, they're in the feet or in the status of the parent, the teacher is, not to carry on their own independent way, but have regard to what the parent wants at school. It's a simple matter of democracy.
Mm. Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Peters. I know you're acting Prime Minister, so you've got lots of priorities, but we really do appreciate your time.
No, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.